High interest rates, shaky consumer confidence, prices that are just sky high. Right now, the US housing market feels like a giant, confusing puzzle with a bunch of missing pieces. So how do you even begin to get a clear picture? Well, sometimes the best way is to zoom in and look really closely at one of the biggest players on the board. And that's what we're going to do today. We are diving into the latest report from homebuilder PulteGroup to see what it can tell us about the entire market.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle the big challenges, the headwinds facing the market. Then we'll check out PulteGroup's third quarter scorecard to see how they're doing. After that, we'll break down their winning playbook, see how different parts of the country are performing, and then finally, we'll figure out what this all means for you, the home buyer.
Okay, first things first, let's set the scene. It is a really challenging environment out there right now, and believe it or not, it's not just about interest rates. There are some really fundamental things going on that are making both buyers and builders, well, let's just say they're walking on eggshells.
So what is really going on inside the mind of someone trying to buy a house today? I mean, even when we see mortgage rates dip a little bit, people are still hesitating. The big question we have to ask is why? What's holding them back?
Well, according to PulteGroup CEO, it really boils down to these three big things. First off, consumer confidence is just plain weak. People see all the headlines about the economy and they get nervous, It's tough to make the biggest purchase of your life when you're feeling uncertain. Second, affordability is stretched to its absolute limit. Prices and rates have made those monthly payments a huge hurdle. And third, all that economic uncertainty creates some very real anxiety about job stability. You put all that together, and what you get is this powerful cocktail of caution that's keeping a lot of would-be buyers on the sidelines.
So, in a market that's got all those challenges we just talked about, how does a massive home builder actually perform? Let's pull back the curtain and look at PulteGroup's third quarter results to see how they navigated these choppy waters.
Let's just start with the headline number, because it's a big one, $4.2 billion. That's how much revenue they brought in from home sales in just one quarter. It really underscores just how massive a player PulteGroup is, and, it shows how much money is still moving through this market, despite all those headwinds.
So how in the world do you get to $4.2 billion in revenue? Well, you do it by delivering over 7,500 homes in just 3 months. And yeah, that's a huge business metric, but it's also worth remembering. Each one of those numbers represents a family or a person getting the keys to a brand new home. It's a really tangible way to see their impact on the ground.
And finally, for anyone watching Wall Street, you've got this number, $2.96. That's the earnings per share, which is really just a key measure of how profitable the company is. In a tough market like this one, being able to post solid profits is a huge signal of financial health and really smart management.
Now, numbers from a single quarter can sometimes be a little misleading without context, and that's why this chart is so important. You can see that while revenue for this quarter is just a tiny bit below last year's record peak, it's still way higher than the years before that. This shows us they're not just surviving in a tough market, they are performing at a historically high level. That's some serious resilience.
Okay, so they're clearly putting up some very strong numbers. The natural next question is, how? What's their secret sauce? What strategies are they using to win when so many people are hesitant to buy? Let's break down their playbook.
Just looking at this chart tells you so much about their strategy. It's not about putting all their eggs in one basket. See how they've got this really even split between first-time home buyers and people who are moving up to a new house? But the real secret weapon here, the thing that sets them apart, is that green slice, 22% active adult buyers. That has been a game changer for them.
And you got to hear how the CEO describes this active adult segment. He says, think Disney cruise ship for those 55 and older. I mean, come on! It's not just about a house, it's a whole lifestyle they're selling, with pickleball courts, social clubs, the whole shebang. And this part of their business has been their most reliable, proving that targeting different life stages is an incredibly powerful strategy.
Okay, hold on. Before we get to the next point, we need to quickly get on the same page with a key industry term, spec homes. All this means is a house that a builder starts constructing before they have a specific buyer lined up. They're building it on speculation that someone will buy it later. Managing these is absolutely critical.
And this is where that discipline really pays off. PulteGroup's approach to managing their inventory is, honestly, it's just plain smart. First, they only start building new homes when their sales volume says they should. No getting ahead of themselves. Second, that discipline prevents a big pileup of unsold finished homes, which can be a huge financial drain. And finally, get this, their average build cycle is just 106 days. That speed keeps them flexible so they can pivot really quickly if the market suddenly changes. It's a masterclass in managing risk.
But look, a winning playbook isn't enough if you don't understand the field you're playing on. We talk a lot about the U.S. housing market like it's one single thing, but the reality? That's a myth. It's actually a patchwork of dozens of different local markets, and each one is telling its own unique story.
I mean, just look at this map. It shows you how vast PulteGroup's footprint is. They're in 47 major markets across the country. And because they're so spread out, they have this incredible bird's-eye view. And what they're seeing is that what's happening in Florida is completely different from what's happening in Texas or California. A one-size-fits-all strategy just won't work.
So, here's the crucial takeaway. They're seeing a real divide. On one hand, you have markets in Florida, the Southeast, the Midwest, and the Northeast that are showing real strength and stability. But on the other hand, places like Texas and the West are softer, they're more competitive right now, partly because there's just more inventory floating around. And this quote from the CEO perfectly captures their strategy for those tougher markets. We can't be margin proud. What does that mean? It means their local teams are empowered to do what it takes. They use incentives to find the right price to keep homes moving. It's about turning those assets over, not just stubbornly holding out for the absolute highest price. It's pragmatic. All right, let's zoom back out. We've seen the headwinds, we've looked at the scorecard, and we've broken down the playbook. So what does all this mean for the future of housing? And more importantly, what does it mean for anyone out there trying to buy a home? At the end of the day, everything we've talked about is overshadowed by this one staggering number, 3 to 4 million. That's the estimated number of homes the U.S. is currently underbuilt. It's a massive structural housing shortage, and it is the fundamental issue that props up this entire market.
So, what's the solution? Well, according to industry leaders, there is no silver bullet here. Solving a problem this huge isn't something one company or even one industry can do on its own. It's going to take a massive, coordinated effort between federal, state, and local governments, all working together with builders to tackle everything from zoning laws to labor shortages.
Which really leaves us with this final critical question. We have this massive, nationwide shortage of homes. We know that's the problem. The real challenge, the puzzle that we all need to help solve, is figuring out what it will actually take to bridge that gap and make the American dream of owning a home attainable for everyone once again.